Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the StreamYard. We've just witnessed a real Godsmack. So I'm gonna go ahead and open the panel up for folks. Come on up here. Everybody's welcome. Come on up and let's discuss the happenstances and whatnot. Here's the click it, majig it, and let me just real quick. Well, where's my live stream? Apparently, I'm not allowed to live stream. What? What? Let's do this one more time. There we go. That works. Yes, William, I'm feeling a little better. I've gone ahead and I've pinned the message at the top. This is the discussion for the Georgia Guidestones, the explosion, the demolitions, whatnot. I'm sure I'm going to catch flack, and this is the opportunity for folks to throw shade my way or to hear me out and hear my my understanding of the physics behind it. I mean, I do understand physics and geology and like a lot of shit because let me just put it this way. I say it's a hobby, but I honestly studied it like a doctor studies medicine. So for me, it's one of those things. I know quite a lot. In fact, I know too much, apparently. I mean, why else would I not be, or why else would I be attacked with infrasound? So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and grab my cigarettes and grab me a glass of water, and we're going to take ourselves a walk on the outsides. Hi, Andy. How you doing? I will be right back, folks. I still got to get things set up so that, I could take this outdoors and we can actually have a real discussion, not just me sitting there going, well, fuck, I'm flipping a Nikki. I got to take my mind off the subject. Okay. So let me grab water and we'll get to it. Because as it happens, I know something about the Georgia Guidestones that apparently even our mainstream misleadia don't even know. Apparently, I know something about the Georgia Guidestones that, hell, people have forgotten. I actually know something about the fella who put them in place. I know something about the fella who erected them. So let me grab my water and we'll take a step out front and have ourselves a front porch discussion. Yeah, I was getting a little concerned too, but is what it is. I can't get mad for shit that's happening for either natural or military application or whatever. It's just something's going to happen. Okay. So whatever it was, it is. And I don't care. All right. Now, there we go. Nice sunlight. Oh, the dog is here. Okay. So, apparently, about 3 or 4 days ago, the Georgia Guidestones were blown up and then demolished. About like 4 hours afterwards, 4 to 8 hours afterwards. And it's caused this mass controversy because people don't know what or why those Guidestones were erected. Matter of fact, I'll be right back. I still got to go grab my power cord. Be right back. Jesus, still scatterbrained. this writing materials. Materials. It'll do. Ow! Fucking stubbed my toe. Okay, so I'm sure you have all heard the name, or the pseudonym really, of Ben Christensen. What you may not have heard was that Ben Christensen was the creator of the cult called the Culling. The Culling, there's no time capsule underneath the Georgia Guidestones. It was erected as a kind of like this big monumental thing for Ben Christensen and his cult called the Culling. The Culling was created as kind of like it's like a predecessor to the whole transhumanism movement, or really so much more than that. It's a death cult. That's literally what it was. You've heard the term drinking the Kool-Aid or to drink the Kool-Aid. Yes. Well, it actually comes from the instance that that cult was created about. It was a death cult. Ben Christensen went and put a bunch of arsenic and other chemical toxins into a bowl of Kool-Aid, passed it around to his followers, and claimed to be the new Christ and all that shit. And they said that they would be reborn into this new society after the apocalypse had come. And that because they would be reborn, their bodies were not necessary at this time. This was back in the 80s. Something I grew up listening to. And you know how it goes. My brain's in and out recently, but it used to be I had perfect memory. So apparently it's coming back in little bits and flashes and whatnot. So bear with me. Anybody's welcome to come up here and argue points with me, but I've got a bunch of this stuff loaded up already on the interwebs. And on top of that, I'm going to be writing this down in my journal as we go along. Okay. No, I don't think he was. Maybe he was. It was maybe that had something to do with it, but it. Damn it! Now that you've asked me, I can't remember. It's all here. I've got the whole thing about the Georgia Guidestones on another page open on this, behind the screen, the scenes in the StreamYard. So we'll look at that. But what I do know is that this man was the creator of the cult known as the Culling. Culling. The Culling. And sure that's something that they've been called, but or no, I remember where I get the culling from now. Okay, it's not the name of the cult. It's the name of the documentary that was turned into a thriller that was based off of this man and what he did. Anyways, again, my mind is in and out. The name on the deed is Ben Christensen, but whatever. what I already said is that Ben Christensen was a pseudonym. And it was. It was not his real name. It was just the pseudonym he went by as the leader of the cult. Good afternoon, Moonchild. Yes, another clown. Anyways, so this cult erected these stones, and they were, for a long time, they just sat there and did nothing. But this feller went and sent a book to a bunch of our Congress members, apparently. I guess Mark Dice did a lot of this research back in the day, and I'm drawing some of my conclusions from that, but I'm also drawing a lot of my conclusions from actual in the instance experience. I'm 35 years old. I've lived a lot of this. Okay. So you got to bear with me just a little bit. It's just a tiny freaking bit, because some of it's anecdotal, some of it is actual facts that we can find on the interwebs, and some of it's, shit that you won't find anywhere. But other people went and did the research, and so we have that in order to look at. Anyways, he sent this book out to every single sitting congressperson at the time. And many of those congress people are still sitting congress people, strangely enough. Go figure. Somehow they got in and they never got out. So it's things to look into. Whatever the case may be, the other night, in a flash of blue-white light, the Guidestones, or one of the Guidestones, was knocked to the ground. Now, I don't know about you, but anybody who's, knowledgeable in demolitions and actually wants to make a statement isn't going to just knock down one stone. They're going to take the whole thing down. Anybody who knows explosives knows that the right and proper blast in the right location would take the whole monument down. This wasn't just some random idiot that went and blew shit up, and it wasn't a terrorist attack. And I can tell you that because I understand physics well enough to know. By the evidence that's actually given, I don't care if somebody was driving away beforehand or whatnot, because what is shown, okay? And this is something that it speaks to people who understand physics intrinsically, understand physics like I do. That flash of blue light speaks to either electrical or nuclear. It doesn't speak to a, or subatomic. It does not speak to a chemical reaction. Chemical reactions normally, they are combustive reactions. So what happens is you'll see basically combustion happening. I can showcase that right here. I got a torch in my hand. Combustion. Y'all saw that orange flash. Even though there's blue flame afterwards, because it starts to burn more efficiently, watch at the very first. You see that red flash first. And that is the way that all petroleum-based fuels and most explosives, if not all explosives, actually conflagrate. They don't detonate perfectly. Even tannerite doesn't detonate perfectly. Even though it's a binary explosive, it's still burning a fuel with an oxidizer. And in that instance that you see the initial explosion, it's not orange. It's not red. It's not reddish. It's not yellowish. It's bluish white. spectrum has a lot to do with my deductions, especially when it comes down to explosions. Now, something that not a lot of people know, but something that I know very well. Granite is like a lightning rod. It also holds a lot of radioactive materials and a lot of metals. That's why it acts like a lightning rod. Okay. It's a type of igneous rock. Igneous rock is known to be electrically conductive. So there's that too. Now, what we see in the actual footage, the 4 frames of footage from the CCTV cameras, okay? And the fact that it's closed circuit makes a big difference here. It really does. Closed circuit television doesn't normally have a lapse in it like an open loop circuit or a wireless circuit would. Closed circuit television is set up that way for a reason. You actually see lightning strikes in closed circuit television. Security cameras, you can see it all the time. Lightning strikes and you can see it. And then maybe later there's a little bit of a lapse, but right in the instance that the strike happens, there's no lapse in the actual footage. And that comes down to the way that a closed circuit television camera is set up and the way that they're all looped in to the actual system. It's all hardwired. It doesn't have the opportunity to lose itself before it actually sees what happens. And it's by design. An EMP won't necessarily knock out CCTV cameras. That's all Hollywood. Okay. CCTV cameras are more likely to continue rolling after a nuclear blast. Even though everything else is gone, the computers that it's attached to are gone. Those cameras are still rolling because they've got a closed circuit. It's all one contained circuit and it's all in itself. It's all grounded to itself. It's not grounded to the ground, which could get overloaded by an EMP. It's actually grounded to itself. It's why cars don't really have problems in lightning storms. Okay, bear with me. It's all physics. It'll start to make sense in a minute. So, if, say, lightning strike hits granite, granite has a tendency to do a couple of different things at the same time. Okay, it instantaneously vaporizes the gases which are held inside of the granite, and that can cause it to sublimate, which causes the granite to try to get away from itself, explode. On top of that, the radioactive particles that are kept up in it, like radium, like radioactive iron isotopes, like different radioactive isotopes that are caught up in granite because it's an igneous rock. Okay. There's uranium, there's plutonium, there's all sorts of different actual, plutonium's not in, that's a man-made radioactive particle, but you get my point. There's radioactive particles in granite. And so that will actually react very fast over a very short amount of time with the amount of electrons bombarding the granite. Got to remember, it's subatomic. That's what electricity is. It's a subatomic energy. It's the electrons on the outside of an atom that create electricity. And this is what I'm drawing the conclusions from, is that I know these things very, very well. I know particle physics. I know material physics. And so I understand that this is how this could happen. You don't have to have a storm to have lightning. You don't even have to have dust in the area to have lightning. You know that? Let this blow your mind. It's granite sitting on top of quartz, sand. It's a piezoelectric system. all contained. It can make its own electricity. I've been around explosives since I was fucking 2 years old. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, cuz, is that it was God. Literally. It was piezoelectricity from the granite stones constantly weighing down into the sand. That's what it had to have been. Because we don't see, in the few frames of actual footage that is public access and public knowledge, okay, we don't see a conflagration, which is indicative of an explosion. We see rather electrical sublimation. And strangely enough, I can once again show you the difference between conflagration and sublimation. Conflagration. You see that orange little bit like that? That's conflagration. Okay? Detonation is just a faster form of conflagration. And that's how that works. C4 burns yellow, yes. Tannerite actually has an orange glow to it in the instance that it goes off. Once it's gone off, it's no longer yellow. It gives off this giant orange cloud, yes, sure. But in the moment that it goes off, you see an orangish white light, not a bluish white light. I know this because, hey, I've fucking blown up my fair share of tannerite. I am not the authorities, Mayhem. I'm going off of the actual physics that I understand. And I understand that I don't agree. I don't agree that it was a planted explosive. It's just a reality. When you place granite on top of quartz, it's metal on top of quartzite, creates a piezoelectric igniter. What I just used to ignite that gas. It's the same thing. See this thing right here? That's sitting on a piezoelectric igniter. Okay? That's literally just a smaller version of the Georgia Guidestones. Literally. That little clicker runs off of piezoelectricity. The little electric spark that jumps the gap inside of the little torch head here that ignites the gas is piezoelectricity. And basically, that's what it was, is piezoelectricity. It's the hand of God for those who can't understand science, and for those who can understand science, it's piezoelectricity. There's a lightning bolt that literally blew the base out of it, because where does piezoelectricity come from? It comes from the contact point between granite pressurized against quartz, or against actually silicon dioxide, which quartz, for those who don't understand science lingo. You can laugh at me all you want. The funny thing is, you're only making yourself look like an idiot here. It's the reality of it. Anybody can actually do this. Y'all have heard those, you've seen those little clicker type lighters, you've taken them apart, you got the little clicker thingy in there. If you take that clicker thingy apart and you look down inside, there's a little piece of ceramic that's made out of silicon dioxide, aka quartz, and there's a striker that's made from platinum metal. And one of the things that is in granite and in profusion in granite is platinum. Another thing that is in profusion in granite is magnetite. Magnetite actually can create its own electricity after a fashion. Okay. Yeah, just another distraction. Fine. Whatever. You know what? You don't want to listen to actual science, logic, and reason? There's a door. You don't have to stay here. We're here for scientific discussion. It's that simple. This inside of here, okay, that's iron pyrite. It's a form of magnetite. And when you strike iron pyrite, you get a spark. Of course, it's yellow. As you can see, you get that yellow spark out of it when you strike iron pyrite. Now, as anybody can quite tell, gas, when you give gases, certain gases that are combustible, a little bit of a way to ignite, ignition source, you get fire. That's conflagration. And we can see at the very base, yes, it's blue, but at the top, there's orange. And that orange light is due to the fact that it does not burn perfectly. Gases, whatever, it doesn't burn perfectly. Any explosive out there does not burn perfectly. Even the most perfect explosive does not burn perfectly. However, electricity doesn't need to actually have an explosive gas or an explosive fuel source or, an oxidizer and a fuel to create an explosion. It just needs to be absorbed into something that can no longer contain that electricity. And in something like a piezoigniter that does not have an outlet, finally, that spark will jump to the nearest grounding point. If that nearest grounding point happens to be a lamppost, it can cause the metal in the lamppost to shed some particles, and that can give off, for a second, a brighter orange light from that lamppost. And what you saw in the video very readily was electricity. I've seen plenty of explosions, all right? And not just on camera, but in real life. And I can tell you from experience, not every explosion shows up to the naked eye. But in a CCTV camera, you can get 4 frames during an explosion. Okay, and those 4 frames are enough that you might catch an actual, what they call a fireball. All right. Also, you can see lightning with the naked eye. This is something that I want to actually bring home to you here, is that when you see lightning with the naked eye, you're actually seeing several strikes in the same place at the same time. When you see an EMP with the naked eye, what you're seeing is the air around the EMP expanding, and that's that blue flash. Okay? It's not the electricity, but it is the electricity, but it's not. You're seeing the after effect of that electricity. The air around it pushing out of the way. And that's what gives you the blue flash. So, I want to draw your attention to the actual blue flash. It's very important when we're talking physics, because an explosion spectrum can tell you what the actual source of the energy was. It's very important when it comes down to explosive science. Like, for instance, an imperfect conflagration. Okay, we can see that there is, it looks like it's an invisible flame on the camera, and then there's the flame on the top, which is visible. It's imperfect conflagration. Most conflagrations are imperfect. In fact, almost every conflagration is imperfect. Even nuclear conflagration is imperfect. Nuclear propagation is not a conflagration. It's actually sublimation of an atom or several atoms. It's where an atom literally rips itself apart. And yes, I've watched Backwoods video. I've watched Suspicious Observers video. I've watched Mark Dice's video. I've watched the FBI footage. I've watched the CCTV camera of like 4 or 5 minutes between the explosion and after effect and an explosion and before. Bear with me, okay? I'm actually going through this with stuff that I actually know. All right? I'm not an idiot. I did watch Backwoods video. If you look, you'll see my comment on his video. And y'all argued with me on that, and that's why I actually put this video out there, why I put this live stream out there, is to point out to you that it's not. It's actually electricity. Like, let me put it this way. A point that I wish to make. We've all seen, when you take, the pair of jumper cables and you sit there and you put the sparks between the two of them, you see little orange pieces flying off. Okay, that's metal particulates that are flying off into the air, and they're so hot that they actually ignite in the air. And what you're seeing is the conflagration of the metal. And then that little tiny gap between the two, you see that little blue spark that jumps between the two of them. And that's, if you want to do an experiment that points out to you that I know what I'm talking about, pair of jumper cables, and really dangerous, and I don't suggest that you do it without proper safety precautions, but there you go. Okay, it's literally, you can see for yourself that I know what I'm talking about here. We see a large blue flash. It's not a small blue flash, it's a large blue flash. Now, piezoelectricity doesn't necessarily need to be small. Our planet is perfectly capable of throwing off huge arcs of piezoelectricity, not just static electricity like some people think that all lightning strikes are. That's not the case. Not all lightning strikes are static electricity. In fact, most lightning strikes are actually piezoelectricity. They start from the earth and they strike upwards, not start from the clouds and strike downwards. If you've ever seen slow motion photography of a lightning strike, you'll know what I mean. Yes, those things are gone for good. Does that mean that it's any less important? The point is science can prove out that nobody did anything. Rather, like I jokingly said, God doesn't agree with the NWO. That's my point. it doesn't have, it's not a conflagration. It's not a detonation, which is a more perfect conflagration. It's really not a detonation. Detonation is still a conflagration. It's just more rapidly happening. It's more perfect. The arc coming up from the ground is the blue flash you see. That's the air moving out of the way of the arc. That's the blue flash. That's the blue light you see. The disruption of all electronics is not the case when it comes to CCW. I mean, not CCW, CCTV. And I've already explained to you how this might work. Okay? It's a closed loop system. People drive through lightning strikes all the time with their cars. That's a closed loop system. Okay? It's all closed loop circuitry. It doesn't knock your car out. It doesn't stop your car from working. You can get hit by a freaking lightning and sitting in your car, and it doesn't knock your car out. You can still drive away. All right? An EMP doesn't necessarily have to destroy electronics. It can just damage them slightly. And there again, you see that surge where it didn't strike the CCTV camera. The grounding wasn't through the CCTV camera. It was through the only ground source around, which was the lamppost. We see that as it arcs up and around and hits the lamppost. It's literally there for you to look at and for you to see. You just have to have eyes to see. It's all about physics. Understanding physics is very important to understand how this happened. Okay. Now, do you feel better now that you've actually proven my point and argued against me at the same time to prove my point? Just saying, Mayhem, you're so scattered, you're not looking at what you're typing. I'm seeing it from the perspective where go and watch Suspicious Observers and actually watch through the channel. Don't just sit there and watch the one video with the freaking Georgia Guidestones. Homework. Right, the rubber tires on a car keep you from being grounded. That doesn't mean that the electricity doesn't go through your car. It just means that the tires keep it from being grounded. You get enough electricity together and it will find ground, however which way it needs to go to do that. It's science. See, folks that are not willing to do homework are not willing to understand the world around them, and therefore they cannot use the world around them. I can use the world around me and manipulate it. That's how I learn. That's how I learned, and that's why I understand physics so intrinsically that I can say, without a shadow of doubt, nobody set off a freaking bomb. It wasn't a bomb. That's the hype. That's Holly weird. Okay? Let me put it this way. Before an earthquake, scientists everywhere that study seismology understand that before an earthquake, there are electrical anomalies. Dogs can sense this. Cats can sense this through their paws. They feel the electricity in the ground. And then there's this earthquake. Well, there's a muzzle flash before the explosion. I'd love to see that footage. I didn't see it. What I did see was what very declaratively tells me that it was a piezoelectrical event that found its grounding through a lamppost that's nearby, and nearby enough that it could actually take on that electricity. And not all lights blow out when you get electrical overwhelming. It happens. This is physics 101 right here. This is something that I love. I've enjoyed since I was a little kid, because it helps me to understand something that when I was a little kid, I was terrified of. Absolutely terrified of lightning. There's a reason I won't actually fish in the rain. There's a reason I won't fish, have a fishing pole in my hand when there's like electrical storms around, or there's a large amount of electricity around me. I won't fish around high voltage boxes for the same reason. I know enough about electricity now to know how to protect myself from it. And it's very important to me, because when I was a little kid, I almost freaking electrocuted myself to death. So I became terrified of electrical storms. And then I wanted to learn more about it in order to understand it so that I wasn't afraid of it. So now I understand electricity so very, very well. And that's what spurred on my yearn to understand physics. Electricity. Exactly, Song. It was just electricity neutralizing itself, because you had a big old piezoelectric clicker thingy, a lot of electricity finding ground. Like I said, piezoelectric. Okay? Listen to that. Okay? That ignition source is electricity. It's a small, little, tiny bit of electricity, but it's just enough that it'll ignite gas. But this is the same principle that big, giant stone pressing down on the sand can create. And that's been proven in a lab. Anybody who's been a follower, or not really a follower, but an observer, somebody who has sat there and watched the Suspicious Observers channel, okay, on YouTube, they'll understand this as well. Our planet creates its own electricity in the ground, in the earth, by rocks pushing against each other, and specific rocks, okay? It's a big deal. You have to look into it. It's actually called the piezoelectric event. It's where a rock of one kind is pressing against a rock of another kind, and because of the difference between those two rocks and the fact that they are creating pressure, electricity will jump between the two of them until they either even themselves out, or one creates such a charge that it has to go somewhere else. It's really simple physics, but it's also very complicated physics. So I understand, why it's hard for some folks to understand. But the reality is that piezoelectricity has existed since the 1800s as far as, a known science. That's why I have difficulty understanding why it's so difficult for people to grasp now. We understand it as like an everyday part of life. You light a cigarette with a piezoelectric igniter. You ignite the gas, which ignites your cigarette. Which, anybody who uses a BIC also understands that iron pyrite can create piezoelectricity. That's why your thumb hurts after sitting there and rolling that ratchet for so long. Got so much electricity built up in it. That's why you could shock your friends after sitting there and fucking with a lighter for so long. Believe it or don't, I've done it. Yes, it's been sitting there all my life. It's been sitting there for a little bit longer than my life, actually. But here's the funny thing about that. Electricity can build and build and build and build and build. And every now and then it'll let off sometimes, or it'll hold on to that electricity. It's like a big battery. Why now? It finally got to a point where it couldn't hold it anymore. It's like, let me put it this way. It's like a giant cloud sitting over the top of an iron lightning rod. And that cloud's sitting there rubbing little particles of water against each other, okay? And it's creating static electricity. Finally, that charge is built up so much that the electricity, the electrical field around the cloud actually can reach down and touch the tip of that rod. And once it can touch the tip of that rod, all of that electricity in that cloud finds its way into that one little avenue and finds its way down that little avenue into the electrical, or into the ground. And what's next is you see a lightning bolt. This is how that works. So think of the granite as like a giant battery, or, the cloud, for instance. Finally, it built up enough electricity that it could actually get that field pushed out there far enough that that arc could reach across to the lamppost across the street and just go boom. It happens all the time. Just because you don't recognize that as what is happening doesn't mean it hasn't happened. It just means you didn't recognize it before. Tall buildings do it all the time. What's it? The Sears Tower has been hit like, I think it was 42 times in one storm. Sears Tower in Chicago literally hit 42 times in one lightning storm. Just electricity from the earth going up, and then electricity from the cloud coming down. Boom, 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 boom. Literally. Over and over again. So, and it can come from the ground, or it can come from the sky. It can come from any source of a large electrical field. And granite can create its own electrical field. It's a very important part of how our planet makes electricity. I don't know where you saw a muzzle flash at. I did see what's called a grounding shed phenomenon, which in layman's terms, that's where the metal particles shed off of a piece of metal after being hit with a lot of energy. So the lamppost across the way actually shoots off a lot of electricity, or I mean, not a lot of, it takes on a lot of electricity, and so it sheds a lot of these metal particles off the sides. And we see that in the actual video. That's very interesting, Scat. Now, believe it or don't, they have done tests to find out if the pyramids create piezoelectricity. Here's what they found. At a certain distance above the pyramid, above the apex of the pyramid, straight up, there is a 30 hertz wavelength of electricity, specifically over the point of the Great Pyramid. So I want you to think about this. The pyramid itself is actually creating electricity. It's just that we can't see it because it hasn't found a ground source, because it's surrounded by a dielectric substrate, the sand. It's amazing, but it's true. It's mind-blowing how it actually works. I understand how it's confusing. I'm not confused about it. I understand it very, very well, unfortunately. I've been electrocuted quite a lot. Do you know what it looks like when granite sheds electricity? Anybody ever been to Tombstone and watched the electrical storms in Tombstone? Yeah, I mean, just on the outskirts of Tombstone, where the granite rock is, the rose granite rock. He's not Song. He died, actually. Apparently, he was jailed for creating bomb shelters that were not up to code, and somehow he died in jail. He didn't drink the Kool-Aid like everybody else in his cult. Again, conflagration does not create a blue flash. That's normally an atmospheric anomaly, okay? And you would also see, along with that blue flash, if it was a conflagration, an orange or yellowish light, because of the way that conflagration, combustion, works. The burning of hydrogen and oxygen creates an orangish yellow light. Let's see here. I wish I had something like right here that I could show you how this works. I don't. Piezoelectricity. Okay, here's something. You guys have all seen what happens when you stick a ball of aluminum foil inside of a microwave, right? It's what's called arc plasma. Arc plasma is a phenomenon created by electricity or an electrical field. Okay? So, imagine the arc plasma. That's the blue light that we see, is that arc plasma. And when the light, the lamp in the lamppost in the background glows incredibly bright and sheds a whole bunch of metal particles off into the air, and the air combusts around it, we see actual combustion happening in the background. And there's our two differences. Okay, you take and you look at the actual granite creating the arc plasma, and then you take a look at the light creating combustion plasma. Those are your two different plasmas. See, it's a science. It's literally a science lesson unfolding before your eyes. The two different types of plasma happening in the same instance from the same source. It's physics. Okay, you guys remember my old video where I took granite rocks, granite pebbles, all right, and I sprayed water over the top of them, and then I used the sunlight hitting the granite and energizing the granite in order to create steam. It's the same principle. It's using the granite rock to sublimate water in order to create water vapor. All comes back to the same thing. This was not a military action at all. This was an actual, this was nature happening before our eyes. This is why when builders build with granite, they put down a foundation before they build with granite, and they make sure that it's grounded. You know, anybody who really knows about building, instead of like some idiot that's just putting up a monument on top of sand. Let me put it this way. The man who builds his home on a foundation of sand is doomed to lose his home, but a man who builds his home on a foundation of rock is going to have that home last the eons. Same principle. It's just more in depth. Okay, so let's see here. Georgia Guidestones are made of granite, a specific type of granite, gray granite. And let's see if we can get the composition of granite to come up here. Okay, granite is composed mainly of quartz and feldspar with minor amounts of mica, amphiboles, and other minerals. The mineral composition usually gives granite a red, pink, gray, or white color with dark mineral grains visible throughout the rock. Okay. So you can actually see what I'm talking about. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share this stuff for you, okay? Yes, if you put granite on top of a concrete slab, it's sitting on top of limestone. Lime, which is a dielectric rock. At the same time, it also has mineral compositions which allow for a grounding effect to happen through concrete, which you won't see in regular limestone. Okay. It's basically stuff that's made up of the same compositions, only it's slightly variated. It creates a what's it called? An electrical difference. That's the actual terminology, is electrical difference. A difference. The difference is the charge of the granite versus the charge of the sand that it's sitting on top of. Okay. And that difference in charge is the voltage that can be released from it when it shifts or moves or anything happens to where it might change just subtly. And it doesn't have to do much. It could be just, it could be invisible to the naked eye, but that little piece of granite rock just turns or something, or, folds or just slightly moves just a little bit, and it creates static charge, electricity. So, how do I, right. Georgia Guidestones. Bombing. Ha 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 ha. See, this is the thing that they want to make it. They want to say that it was a bombing so that they can go and use that as a tragedy so that they can turn around and do something with that tragedy. What's the name of the game with these leftist fucking lunatics? Never let a good tragedy go to waste. Okay. I don't think it's a tragedy. I think it's a fucking boon. But what can I say? March 22nd, 1980 is when it was built and opened. Georgia Guidestones heavily damaged by an explosion. We can see blue flash. There's no actual conflagration in the blast. It appears that, okay, let me see if I can go ahead and share this. Yeah, they're going to blame it on somebody. They have to. Granite, limestone, and clay. No, I'm saying that granite and quartzite sand do not mix. Oh, the puns. Y'all are too punny. Let's see here. Share screen. Georgia Guidestones. Sure. Okay, so we actually have video of it. We have NBC News. We have CBS News. We have The Guardian. We have just everybody's covering it. And apparently nobody's covering it as an electrical anomaly. They're covering it as an explosion or a bombing. You see what I mean by never let a good tragedy go to waste. They're going to go after somebody saying it was explosives. However, it's just a narrative. Let's look at this realistically. Okay? Back and scroll down. Let's find some actually good footage of this. Okay. We see what looks like explosive force. However, this could also be created by an electrical blast. Let me go ahead and pull up something else. Okay, here we go. So now I have electrical explosions that I'm going to show. I want to share electrical explosions. we can see in an electrical explosion, it can cause a gaseous discharge. Okay. Simple Google search. All right. We see right here, you can see a gaseous discharge from an actual electrical explosion. All right. Let me scroll down and see. I want you to take a very close look and see what I'm talking about. These electrical discharges can cause electrical plasmas. All right. It doesn't necessarily have to be just an explosion or an explosive device. It can be an arc flash. Okay. This is what I'm talking about. It doesn't just have to be an explosion. We've seen electrical explosions in the past. Okay. Let me go ahead and pull up something else. +1, go to ScrewTube and look up birds cause electrical explosion. Okay. Bird explosion. There we go. Let me see here. I'm going to try and scroll through and find the actual point in time where they vaporize themselves.
Calm down. Look at this big batch of
Go. And stop there. Stop sharing the other one. Share this one so that y'all can see what I'm talking about. There's an actual phenomenon called an electrical arc explosion. And this can happen even from piezoelectricity. Okay, don't just sit there and think that it could be anything else. It could have been an electrical explosion. This happens all the time. Now watch. These birds have just taken off from these wires.
Oh, there they go. Oh, God. They're running out of power. Yeah, baby.
And you see how quick that happened. And there was an electrical arc which created a gas cloud. Once again, this is how this works. Hey, you backwoods. Good to see you, brother. I don't think it was a lightning strike. I think it was piezoelectricity. Piezoignitions, basically. A piezoignition of gas that, let's be clear, radium when it devolves, turns into radon gas. Okay. Radon gas, when it ignites, can create a bright blue flash. You guys have seen the radon flashlight light bulbs? Honestly, this is how this works. It's very interesting physics, and I'm sure that a lot of people are going to sit there and say, no, it was an explosion. Listen to me when I say this. Not every explosion is caused by man. Sometimes it can be caused by other things. We don't see a conflagration in the videos. We see an arc plasma. Let's be clear. It's a bright blue flash. It sticks around for a second, but it's a plasma. It's arc plasma. Okay. I said it was a lightning strike or piezoelectricity. I'm starting to draw the conclusion. In fact, I'm more falling towards the conclusion that it was piezoelectricity. Bear with me. Yes, I originally said it was a lightning strike. However, again, lightning doesn't necessarily have to come from the sky. It can come from the ground through piezoelectricity. Lightning can create arc plasma, which we just watched a bunch of birds get exploded off of a fucking power line via arc plasma. This is what I keep talking about. It doesn't have to be from a rainstorm. Okay? That's my point. So we don't necessarily know for a fact that it was an explosive device. That's what we're being told by the people who, for the last, 5 years, have been arguing against actual logic, sense, and reason about? Come on, folks, let's think about this for a second. Do we really want to take these people at their word? Hey, cuz.
I can drive to the Georgia Guidestones in about 40 minutes.
Okay. You could drive to where they were.
Yeah, or where they were, actually.
Well, anyways, my point remains that electrical arc plasma exists. This is another phenomenon that can create an explosion. It doesn't have to be just, a bomb. That's what bothers me about this is that people are jumping to conclusions before we have all the facts in. And I'm not willing to even take the FBI at their word, because let's look back at the last 5-6 years. Have their facts been on point? I don't believe so.
Why would you want to believe the government to begin with?
Exactly. Why would you want to believe the mainstream media? Like, all of a sudden they've got their facts right? I'm sorry, I smell fish.
There is such things as natural phenomenon.
That's my point. It doesn't necessarily have to be an explosive. It doesn't necessarily have to be an explosive device. It could still be an explosion without C4 or tannerite or nitroglycerin, or it doesn't have to be. It could be radon gas that got electrified. That'll create an explosion.
It's like I told you, because I look at it on a point blank fact. The New World Order Bible is on the ground now.
There we go. That's what we can take as actual fact, is that whatever the Georgia Guidestones were, they no longer exist. They're not there anymore. They got blown up.
There was a big controversy about them when they were put up.
Yeah, about that, actually. I'm gonna go ahead and share that real quick. We've got Georgia Guidestones, Google Spoogle Goo search, and
If you actually read the thing, the actual content, it's kind of scary.
Wikipedia. I'm gonna look at the thing that anybody can change on a whim. Okay, we'll look at that. Georgia Guidestones Granite Monument in Elbert County, Georgia, United States, from 1980 through 2022. You see how quickly they've changed everything already? It used to say from 1980 through today. So there's that. They were made from 6 granite slabs weighing a total of 237,764 pounds. Approximately 80 tons.
You're not going to move them with a John. You won't move them with a John Deere tractor.
No, they literally took cranes to put them in. In June 1979, a man using the pseudonym Robert C. Christian approached the Elberton Granite Finishing Company on behalf of a small group of loyal Americans and commissioned the structure. Christian explained that the stones would function as a compass, calendar, and clock, capable of withstanding catastrophic events. Apparently, this guy does not understand electricity very well.
You know, I noticed you mentioned loyal Americans. Does that just depend on which side of the witch hunt you're on?
Right. I believe, yes. So, yeah, no motive has been publicly shared and no suspects publicly identified. Okay. This is my point. They're using it. They don't have even a lead to go off of. They're going to use it for something. All right.
Apparently, the banker that was given the money from W.C. Christian or whatever the heck his name is was sworn to secrecy of where that money came from.
Yeah, it's loyal Americans, loyal to their to whoever's agenda that was. The video shows a flash of light in front of the structure, followed by an explosion and collapse of the stone tablet, led to some conspiracy theorists and Candace Taylor to claim the destruction was an act of God. She also stated that if it was vandalism, the people should be brought to justice. Well, yes and no. Let me put it this way. Those people probably were doing us all a favor.
Have you noticed something about the situation that's extremely strange? It came in. It came into existence from an unknown, and it was taken out from an unknown.
Exactly. This is my point. They're trying to. It's one of those. I hate to use the fucking term because it paints you as one of these conspiracy theorists. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy fact checker. I check to see if the facts align. So, this is why it just doesn't, it falls along the lines of a secret society. The problem with that is that most, if not all, I won't say all, okay, most secret societies function along the lines of they are only secretive in who their members are. They're not secretive about what they do. So, like, for instance, I happen to be a Knight of Columbus. The Knights of Columbus is considered to be a secret society. Yet the only secret in the society is that Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior.
You want to look at secret societies, cuz look at our federal government right now is being run by an external source. Now a secret society.
That sounds very secretive because as far as secret societies are concerned, a secret society that does not divulge what it is that they do would definitely be one of those. It would be the government. The government does not divulge what they do. They just divulge little tidbits of things in order to keep us strung along. You know, I'll tell you exactly what the Knights of Columbus do. They are a Catholic fraternity, a Catholic fraternal organization based upon the ideal of aiding Catholic families and individuals in need. I was raised Catholic. Yeah. Woo. Great. So, yeah, there you go.
We may never know what happened to them stones.
We probably won't know the truth about it. However, in my opinion, I already know what happened, and it's a matter of, you know, I see the facts by looking at it scientifically. I don't see somebody doing a terrorist action. I just don't. You want to know what a good terrorist action, what the closest thing to a terrorist action we've had in the past 6 months has been? That Antifa fucker going and shooting up the 4th of July parade. That's the closest thing we've had to an actual terrorist action in the last 6 months.
With all these people that have flocked into this country from all over the world, including our U.S. border with Mexico, if the American people will just sit aside for a few minutes and watch, we're going to have another 9/11 event's going to happen within a short period of time.
Now that I won't disagree with. I would not be surprised.
If they want a big firecracker show, just sit back and wait. It's only a matter of time before it happens.
Right. Only the shadow knows. Anti-Ant Jack over there is funny. Only the claw knows. That's why I find it kind of funny that, you know, people go and they spread disinformation, because all that they're doing really is aiding individuals in hiding their methods and their madness. I'm not interested in hiding methods or madness. I'm interested in exposing truth through science. And that's literally how that works. I look at it scientifically. I can't look at it any other way. I see an explosion. Sure. I also see what looks like basically the same thing as microwave plasma.
Well, I would go look at it, but there's nothing left of it.
See, the dust cloud that's kicked up looks like a lot of granite particulate substrates in solution with our atmosphere. That's what it looks like to me, just a bunch of dust. So I can't point at that and say, oh, well, that's the remnants of an explosive device. I just can't. I look at that and I say, well, no. That could be any multitude of different things. Sure, it could be, you know, combusted fuels, but more likely that's just a giant dust cloud. And
if I'm not mistaken, there was already numerous attempts of vandalism done to that place, and there was cameras all over the freaking place down there.
Yeah, which anybody that knows anything about CCTV cameras knows that you're not going to get away with something like that.
Every Johnny Redneck with a spray can was down there messing with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because nobody likes the idea that you know, you're going to go and kill 90% of the human population.
See,
500 million people?
C-19 done a good job of that. No pun intended.
Well, look at it this way. 500 million people around the world. That's what that limitation is supposed to mean. Maintain a society of no greater than 500 million people. There are more than 9 billion people on the planet right now. That's more than 90% of all human life on this planet gone. Wouldn't that piss you off? That's a lot of mass murder. That's mass genocide. That's mass. That's homicide on levels that Hitler and Stalin would drool over.
It kind of sounds like biological warfare.
Quite literally, it would create biological warfare if there wasn't. That's my point.
If they ever let something nasty out of the CDC or whatever, it would probably annihilate a good portion of this planet.
I do see the genocide that is going on. I'm not blind to it. All right. I'm just pointing out that that's what the Stones advocate for, and that's why these folks would be so mad and go and you know, deface those pieces of junk. I mean, that's literally what they are. They're the gravestones of a society.
You're exactly right, cuz. I didn't like them when they were put up.
Neither did I.
But I'm not down there trying to blow them up neither.
Yeah, neither am I. I'm what, 4,000 miles, 3,000 miles away? Something like that. I'm not going to go and blow them up. I mean, just my point remains that they don't make me, it doesn't make me any happier that, you know, they were in existence. I don't like that they existed.
If you see where they're at, cuz it's out in the middle of nowhere in a damn cornfield just about.
Yeah, it's literally on an ancient tsunami bed, an ancient tsunami plain. That's literally what that is a giant sand dune, really.
And Blaine, you're correct about that, because at one time, Columbia, South Carolina was under the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
They found shark's teeth in Columbia, South Carolina, which is 400 miles from the coast.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's a giant sand dune. It is what it's put on top of. And that's where I draw the conclusion of piezoelectricity from, because it's the right mineral compositions and the right elements put, you know, in the right profusion, in the right places, with the right weights to do that. It's literally an act of God, because of the simple fact that if it didn't happen beforehand, you know, it was bound to happen at some point in time.
But I'm with you, because I never did agree or like what those them things stood for.
I didn't agree with them neither, but that doesn't mean I'm going to blow them up.
I mean, I could be down there before lunchtime. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that you're going to go blow them up. That's my point. It's not like you just want to go and deface something that's just sitting there. It's like, well, what's the point? All it does is lend validity to whatever the fuck their argument was for putting them up in the first place.
Not only that, it puts me in the spotlight.
Right. So you don't want to do that. Nobody's going to go do that. Yeah, go and spray paint the fucking side of it. Woo-hoo. Some liberal fucking idiot probably did all that spray painting. just because they didn't agree with mass murder. Go figure. Nobody agrees with mass murder. I don't agree with mass murder. You don't agree with mass murder. That doesn't mean that we're going to go and blow something up over it. I mean...
Well, yeah, they do agree with mass murder, cuz. Look at Roe versus Wade.
Oh, got me there. That's mass infanticide. A little bit different. They're defenseless. They agree with killing the innocent, defenseless.
But yeah, there's been a lot of controversy over it. I remember, years and years. I mean, it's been them things have been there for at least what, 45 years.
Pretty close. 1980.
So, yeah, so they've been there a long time. I mean, a long time. Almost a half a century.
You ever seen what happens when you break a stone up with him? You get chunks and you get dust. Logic, reason. Who's Starlight? Is that the governor down there or something? What's her flavors? America's Stonehenge. I don't really fucking think it should be America's Stonehenge, but what can I say? Back to the Wiki Walkie Woods, the fuckers. Candace Taylor is the one that's the governor down there, so that's what that is. Oh, on a TV show that I've never seen before. That's why I don't know who it is. I haven't lost my mind yet. We're doing good. Yeah, look, I don't know it for certain anything about this. What I do know is that piezoelectricity isn't just something that happens, in a lighter. It can happen on a grand scale. In fact, it's one of the driving forces behind lightning. One of them, not all of them, one of the driving forces.
I'm fixing to solve the problem. It was a couple of Georgia rednecks with a pickup truck and a 6-pack.
Mm-hmm. 6-pack of what? Dynamite? I mean, let's be honest here.
Take your choice. A 6-pack of beer. I don't know.
Tannerite ain't going to do that. It doesn't have enough explosive force. Not unless you're talking several thousand pound. Or I mean, not several thousand, several hundred pound of tannerite. You can't just do that with like 1 or 2 pounds of tannerite. It's not going to do it.
They blow up feral hogs around here with tannerite.
Yeah,
they'll take a whole damn slew of them out in one boom.
Yeah. They use about like 20 to 30 pounds of tannerite to do that.
Yeah, next thing you know, you got bacon everywhere.
And it doesn't kill the hogs, it just stuns them. Then they have to actually sit there and shoot the individual hogs because, otherwise they'll sit there and squeal for a minute and then jump back up and run off, die somewhere else.
We have an invasion of feral hogs in my state.
So I don't think it was tannerite. I don't think it was. Honestly, you'd need to use a much faster explosive, a much faster moving explosion in order to do that, especially to get that blue glow. It's not going to be just from, something like Anto.
This is another question I got, cuz if somebody really wanted to take the thing out, they would have took something that had a higher flashpoint velocity, to take the whole damn thing out, left a crater there. They would have actually brought something to literally send that thing to the moon.
Right. They would have.
It wouldn't have took down just one stone. It wouldn't have took down just one stone. It would have sent the whole damn mess to the next county.
Right. Let's be honest with ourselves here. If somebody's going to go and actually do something like that, they're going to put together the right and proper explosive that'll do the job and do it well and cleanly. On top of that, if they're going to commit such an atrocity, they're going to do so and in its completion, not just take out the one that's in English.
It would have left a hole big enough for a swimming pool.
Right. There would have been a massive crater there, not 4 standing stones and 1 stone turned into a bunch of chunks and dust. That's my point. It's more likely that this was a natural phenomenon. It's just
actually a stick. And I'll do reality. A couple of sticks of dynamite would have done the job.
Yeah, just a couple, dinamite candles. Really?
Which dynamite is quite common. You can get that stuff just about anywhere.
Right. If they were going to do it, I mean, hell, you can make dynamite in your backyard. If they were going to do it, they would have used enough to actually do the job, not just do some fancy fireworks and maybe take 1 rock out of the equation. That's the point. It wouldn't just, make it into an unsafe structure. They would have taken the whole thing down. This is where I come back to it wasn't a human being that did this. It couldn't have been. It just doesn't make sense. If it was a human being, they would have thought about this ahead of time and been like, you know what? About like 3 or 4 sticks of dynamite, and I could have taken that whole thing down. 3 or 4 sticks of dynamite ain't much nitroglycerin.
Regardless of how it happened, the things are on the ground now, which is, a lot of the country's overwhelmed about it, put it that way.
Right, all of it's on the ground now. But even though it's all on the ground now, 3 of those slabs are not destroyed. That's my point. If somebody was doing this with explosives, they would have tried to destroy the entire thing.
Yeah, they would have left a crater hole.
That's my point. I mean, I know that when I use explosives, I tend to use enough explosives to do the job, not just, enough to make it a dangerous place to be around. That's my point. You know, let me put it this way. You set off an M80, right? You don't hold it in your hand. You stick it out there where it's safe to blow it up so that there's nothing that's going to be dangerous about it. The same thing comes down to demolitions. When you're doing demolitions, you don't just take out one corner of the building and then leave the rest standing. What if somebody walks inside that building? Now that person could actually end up stepping on the wrong pylon, the wrong pylon, and the whole thing comes crashing down around their ears, and you're responsible for their death. Anybody that knows anything about demolitions knows that you take the whole structure to the ground.
They strategically place all that blasting stuff in certain places of the building to implode it.
Right. This is my point. It's not. It's not. It doesn't make sense. That's my point. It doesn't make sense to just take out one stone when it's in like 10 different languages on 4 different rocks. It just doesn't make sense. I don't trust a single thing that police tell me because I've been lied to by the police to my face after being the victim of something. I don't believe a thing that the fucking police say ever. I don't ask 911 anything.
That Jack's talking about the Twin Towers.
Oh. Well, in that case, let's look at the Twin Towers.
There's 2 big flying fucking airplanes, flying gas stations.
Both of those towers hit the ground. Building 7 was demolished. When they did demolitions, did they just take out one corner of it? No, they collapsed the whole building.
Both of them. But where the Guidestones are at, because all I got to do is drive across the next county next door to me, and I'm sitting right in front of it.
Well, that's, in respect to the way that they want to spin this, because that's not necessarily endearing. I mean, you and I both know that it wasn't you, and it wasn't something that was a deliberate act. I mean, I know it wasn't a deliberate act, and I'm 3,000 miles away. Oh, and by the way, Mayhem, I'm what you would call common folk. I don't have an explosives license. That doesn't mean I don't know how to use explosives and how to do demolitions.
They call us an educated redneck.
Mm-hmm. That's common folk for you. When you're blowing up a beaver dam, you use at least 6 to 7 pounds of tannerite, right? It's enough to actually get the water to do the job. You're trying to actually get the dam to get destroyed without destroying the area around it. It's using science, logic, and reason. And that's my point. Rednecks are not dumb. We're not idiots. We're actually very intelligent people. Just because a man's a redneck doesn't mean that he's an idiot. Just because a man's common folk, so-called, doesn't mean that he's an idiot. Hell, I know how to use freaking nitroglycerin in order to take and make holes in the ground in order to make pools you know, like swimming pools and ponds. But that doesn't mean that I've got a license to do it. I just know how to do it. See my point? You don't have to be one of these extra special, you know, super demolitions experts in order to do something like that. You just have to know what you're doing. I'm what they call common folk.
Cuz I thought I'd just drop in for a second to say howdy. I ain't got much time left on my phone.
All right, good.
Yeah,
It was good talking to you.
whatever happened, the damn thing's on the ground.
Yep. And that's something we can all be happy for. You know it?
That's what I'm saying.
Heck, I'm happy they ain't standing no mores. And I would be
Well,
really
for what
happy if they went and they
I'm
then destroyed them.
I'm happy for the reason of what it represented. That's what I'm happy about, because of the representation of what was on that damn thing.
Yeah. Same here.
AKA the New World Order.
Let me put it this way. You're not going to demolish a crime scene. You're just not going to demolish a crime scene. It doesn't work like that. Anybody who's ever been part of a crime scene investigation knows that the crime scene does not get touched for days, weeks, months even. Even if it's not safe to be there, people who are willing to take the risks in order to investigate the crime scene will continue to keep that crime scene intact as long as they can until the case is solved and it has been through the court system. That's how that works. So to me, it's not a crime scene. If it were a crime scene, it wouldn't have been demolished. They'd have wanted to keep it intact so that they could find out what happened. Just because investigators have been there and gone, doesn't mean that they won't come back. That's my point. It's not necessarily. I mean, they probably know exactly what I know. It's that it was electricity. And they don't want to admit that it was electricity that did it, because then they would have to change their climate science. There's actual little different scientific parameters of certain studies that they've gone and done for climate science that would have to change if it was piezoelectricity. That's why they're still calling it what they're calling it. That's another part of this whole huge problem, which is why I can't say that it was an actual explosion or an explosive device. Okay, an explosion created by detonating an explosive device. That's why I have a problem with it. There's a multifaceted problem here that if you look at all the different angles of it, it makes a huge issue for anybody who has any investigative knowledge. See, I am formerly a VOVC, victim of violent crimes. Okay. I know that I wasn't allowed to get my stuff back from my brother's place in Watts, California until the fucking the whole thing was investigated and everything was documented and logged, and they'd been through that house over and over and over again and actually seen it and walked through it again and again and again until the actual court date happened. That's my point. It can't be just some. They don't destroy crime scenes, especially not 4 hours or 5 hours after it happens, 8 hours after it happens. They don't destroy a crime scene that fast. I mean, look at it this way. 2001, they removed a lot of the rubble and whatnot. But as soon as they figured out it was a crime scene, there was investigators in there. They were taking pictures with every piece that was removed. It was reconstructed in a different place so that they could actually figure out what happened. Yes, it was a disaster, but they still tried to piece it back together. They still tried to make it something. They didn't just 5 hours later. It took months to take apart all of that. And then they stopped as soon as they realized that they weren't rescuing any more people. My point remains, it's a crime scene. Why are they destroying it this fast? It's not a good enough argument to say it's for safety. They let the rubble of the trade center sit there for months, digging body parts out of it for months. Reconstructing that for months. Didn't happen overnight. That's my point. It just doesn't make sense. What would make more sense is if it was natural phenomenon that caused it to happen. And because it's a safety issue and it was a natural phenomenon, therefore it's not a crime scene, there's perfect validity for taking it down. It's questions that need answering. And from where I'm standing, those other stones look pretty solid to me. They'd have left them there for as long as they could in order to understand and reconstruct, to take and pick through and get every bit of evidence they could. Not knock them over, maybe covering evidence that might be laying there on the ground. This is either the sloppiest crime scene investigation I have ever seen in my life, even in Hollywood, and then like movies and stuff. Or it's not a crime scene. So, go ahead and we'll just start writing stuff down here. See here, I'm going to do a standardized drawing. Call it Guidestones. Capstone had a break in the top. The middle stone still looked like it was stable. The side stones looked like they were stable. Rubble ground up front looked like it was spread out in a formation and such. I'm not writing y'all up. Look. I'm literally doing a technical drawing, just a drawing of the area. Okay. It's got a roadway on the other side of that roadway that arcs around. There was a lamp post. We have side, there was CCTV camera on a pole, at the top of a pole. Aimed at that, so there's that. And on the other side corner, there's another CCTV camera here. Yeah, Georgia got stoned. There's that too. Supposedly there's this time capsule underneath, but nobody knows when it was put in. Nobody knows if it wasn't put up there. Well, again, this side here, again, we have that. And apparently we had 360 degrees of visibility around this thing. Why wasn't an individual actually shown walking up to the Guidestones and then deploying some sort of a package and then leaving? Why wasn't that information released? Again, it would help to go and track down this person who did something. And again, the CCTV cameras, we see the actual instance happen. It's not good enough to just have that. You actually have to have the physical evidence. And if you cover that physical evidence in some 20-ton block of granite, doesn't make sense. So It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. This is what I think about that whole situation. There you go. There's your unicorn shit in a fucking rainbow. Quite literally, that's what I think about it being an actual explosion. It's a fucking giggle fest, in my opinion. You know, an explosive device, yeah, sure, whatever. I'm still looking around for the fucking leprechaun. Hi, me Lucky Charms. Yeah, I two different posts with 4 different cameras, and they didn't catch a suspect in the act. Unicorn farts and puppy dog dreams. Heart shapes and clovers. Rainbows and blue moons. I don't know. Heart shapes and clovers. Heart shapes and I can't even fucking remember no more. It'll poop Blarney Stones. That's too funny. Yo, I don't believe that was a freaking a bomb. I don't. Sorry, but physics has never lied to me. It did. I don't believe it's a bomb. No. I haven't had any shrooms, thank you. Actually, kind of wishing I did. Oh! Let's take this fucking show inside. Because honestly, I stopped believing in fairy dust and leprechauns when I was about, not old enough to walk. That's literally what I think of this. It's fucking unicorn farts and puppy dog dreams. In a nutshell. I don't believe that it was a bomber. No. Nope. That is some grade A horse shit, and I ain't buying. All right, cuz. Have a good day. Sorry, but I don't buy it. I really don't. I know too fucking much to buy into the bullshit. Yeah, if you said exactly, Anti. If you're in a Flying J truck stop bathroom and you hear "I love unicorns" and you see someone in a crash helmet, get out of the bathroom. Because somebody is smoking some crack, boy. Don't you be getting into that garfish now. Don't do it, who? No eating dead things. Oh, shit. Mayhem, you running around in a fucking crash helmet? Bruh. I got to put this out there, brother. They're looking for a retard and a badass. They already got me, so you better go get your helmet and your crayons and get the fuck out of Dodge. Yeah. Days that end in Y or begin in T. I know. Lucky Charms. I don't know why I'm going to do this. But, okay. Okay, that's not what I was looking for. Thank you, but no. That's not what I was looking for. Ah, here we go. Maybe this is it?
They're after me, Lucky Charms. But I wonder, can you name me marshmallow shapes?
Sure, hearts, stars, horseshoes, clovers, and balloons, hearts of golden rainbows, and the red balloons.
That's me, Lucky Charms. Hearts, stars, and horseshoes, clovers, and balloons.
Hearts of golden rainbows, and the red balloons.
Lucky Charms, the part of this good breakfast with 8 magical marshmallows.
I had to. It's funny. You know it's funny. Hearts, stars, and horseshoes, clovers, and balloons, pots and golden rainbows, and me red balloons. Unicorn poo. I know, it's too fucking funny. Oh, fuck. Damn, that's too funny. I'm sorry, but it's just, too many fucking times I've sat there and been like, are you serious? This is one of those moments I'm like, they're after me, Lucky Charms! All right, so what now? My breath still smells like death, dude. I don't know what you've been getting into. Oh, fuck. Dog. I don't know what it is that you've been eating, but you have not been eating your food. You've been eating your food, but still, that is not the smell your food makes. So, just have to wonder, things don't make sense. That's something my dad used to tell me. If shit don't make sense, that normally means something ain't right. It's honest to God truth. If shit don't make sense, something ain't right. Any Hoosiers, I'm going to get off here. We've had a discussion. Y'all know what I think about it. It's a bunch of fucking Lucky Charms, yeah. Y'all have a good one. I am ye old guardsman motherfuckers, and I am out.